Do you ever feel like an alien that accidentally landed on Earth and is just exploring this strange world around you, wondering what the heck is going on? Welcome to my world.
I live in a broken home, there's no one else but me alone.
Hi, I'm Bibi, and I'm autistic. You might know me better as Aspergirl. I actually chose that name because having undiagnosed autism made me feel like I was hiding a secret, like a superhero. A superhero who stims, hates loud noises, and has anxiety. I love exploring this strange world around me, and you're welcome to come along. Here's real life from an autistic perspective. No small talk. From my little home in the Arctic, I invite interesting guests to give me advice on how to navigate the neurotypical world as a neurodivergent. I'm really bad at introductions. I don't know where to start, or how to sit, or what to say. So I'm gonna do this the autistic way. My way. On today's show, I'm super excited because I got to sit down and have a one-on-one with comedian Deanne Smith. While Deanne doesn't identify as autistic, their comedy is super relatable. After our conversation, I think they're a lot more neurodiverse than anyone actually thought.
Are you and your home a bit boring and mainstream? Do you wish you could be more odd and fanciful? Do you want to seem creative without the imagination and mental problems associated with actually being creative? Of course you do, and/or are. Spice up your personality and your home decor with mason jars and make life easy.
Wow, I feel more creative already. Before I really get into it with Deanne Smith, I just thought I'd warn you that because of my remote location, sometimes the video quality is not the best. But at least there's no small talk. Wait, does opening banter and disclaimers count as small talk? Okay, never mind.
Hi.
Yeah.
This is
Hi.
cool.
This is really cool, actually. I'm very nervous and excited.
Nervous is cute.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any reason to be nervous.
I wish we could just live our lives based on, I feel like doing this right now. The world should accommodate to me. I'm ready now, so let's do that rather than having to like prep myself for like an impending thing that needs to happen at a specific time and then hoping the stars align and my mood is ready and I can make sounds come out of my mouth. But we're doing it.
We're doing it.
I mean, if you want to explain like who you are, you can in your like, who are you? Really?
Whoever wants to explain who they are, no thank you.
As autistic people, as I am, the worst question of all time is actually, how are you? Because when we answer that question truthfully, we get accused of often oversharing or giving too much information. But then to just say, fine, feels like a horrible lie. I want to know the real tea when I ask you like how you are.
Funny that you say that, and that's like an autistic thing, because I've always felt that way. Early on in comedy, I had a joke about it, but I was too new at comedy to really make the joke work. If I tried it again, I could probably do it. When answering the question, how are you, I don't really know if I should answer honestly or not. And I don't remember exactly how it went, but it was just something exactly like that, like oversharing, like, how are you? Well, you know, I've been really kind of connecting the ways in which I hold back intimacy now with the fact that like my parents were alcoholics when I was growing up. I'm like, there's this whole huge thing. And then like, how are you? And then everyone else is like, fine. Yeah.
I went camping last weekend and at work, someone asked me how my camping trip had gone. And the true story was that I didn't bring my Diva cup and I started my period and my wife left. And so I was out alone in the tent with my period, and I decided to tell that to my manager. And
well, I mean, it's like the most emotionally impactful part of the camping trip, maybe. Like, why wouldn't? How did it go? Well, this thing happened. Let me tell you about it.
I felt compelled to share the story because it was the truth. That's how my camping was. You know, she didn't ask like, you know, in one word, how was your camping trip? Without those specific details.
Bloody, and then you just walk away.
Actually, I was on this Zoom call yesterday, and because of COVID, they thought that the question of "How are you?" would be really triggering to people.
Okay.
So then instead of "How are you," it was "Who will you be in 5 years?"
That's so much worse. Yeah.
I thought was way more triggering because of course I went through, will I even survive? So are you autistic? You're not autistic.
I don't think so. It helps to consider myself in this way. I would say that at the very least, I seem to check a lot of boxes for what it is to have ADHD. And when I like follow those accounts and look at that kind of stuff and coping mechanisms, that honestly really helps me feel more like a person with a specific brain that does a certain thing and less like just a chaotic tornado that can't get anything done. But in the same way, like following your account, Aspergirl, on Instagram, and talking to other friends of mine that like have Asperger's or autism or on the spectrum somewhere, I do find myself a lot of times like relatable. If anybody has a general sense of like being an alien on a strange planet, I would say I feel like that most of the time. I think there's a lot of people that feel like that. So
does anybody really know what's going on in this world? Which is why I really like your comedy and like comedy in general, because it is a good medium to like work things out especially for autistic people. We find it challenging to be in a room full of people and have a conversation. But if we have like space and a mic and we can just talk without interruption, we can actually a lot of time get our thoughts out.
You know, public speaking is a lot of people's worst fear. Like a lot of people are really afraid of it. And for me, that it was just so natural and so much more comfortable than actually like a one-on-one. And I used to have I don't remember how it went, but I used to have a little joke about like, I'm actually like terrified to have one-on-ones with people. That's to me the scary, like more intimate, more risky type of situation where when there's lights on me in a stage and a microphone and everyone else is meant to sit down and be quiet, that's easy. That's like, it's very clear rules. And it's very clear what's expected of all of us in this interaction. You know, I'll do ba-ba-ba-ba and you guys just go, ha, and then we've got it.
If they don't go, ha, 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 then you know, oh, okay.
Yes. Then I forget my next part because I'm like, oh, you guys were supposed to say, ha, ha. What do I do now?
It's very clear with an audience if they're, I think, enjoying it or not.
Oh, yeah, it's the easiest. It's black and white. Either they're laughing or they're not, and that's it. That's all you need to know.
I had some like jokes that I wanted to like go through.
Oh,
with you. I don't know
this is exciting. I didn't know this was part of it. Let's do it.
No, they're your jokes.
Oh God, I thought they were going to be
like your
jokes.
Oh, my jokes. I mean, I can like.
No, please remind me that I used to write jokes. I'd be happy to know about it.
I say my favorite about everything, but I feel like my favorite joke ever, because I also used to be a barista. So, and maybe I'll turn it into a TikTok because it's so great.
I went to a cafe. I was already feeling on edge. I go to order coffee, and I'm in my head about the order. That's just how I am. I'm gearing up for the order. I'm going, okay, if you get a latte, she's going to draw a heart on it. Doesn't mean anything. She said cold or steamed, and something in me unhinged. I go to answer now, just bringing years of emotional baggage to what should be an everyday coffee shop transaction. Just years of unresolved doubt and insecurity. She said cold or steamed. I said, I don't know what's normal, just give me what's ever normal. I just want to be normal. That's not how you answer that. She was a beautiful person. She took a moment out of her day and she said to me, it's not about what's normal. It's just about what you prefer. I was like, single tear, Mom?
That's very real. I was in Australia at the time and I just ordered coffee with milk on the side, which is what I usually do. I like to control how much milk is going in my coffee. And they said, do you want your milk cold or steamed? And I really didn't know. And it didn't need to be that big of a deal, but I kind of like crashed and just like it just came out. I just really just came out like way too much emotion about this thing. I don't know what was going on with me that day. I don't know what's normal. I just want to be normal. And the woman really, none of it is made up. The woman really just like took a beat and was like, it's not about what's normal. It's just about what you prefer. And I was like, oh my God, life lesson. This is huge. And so I think I asked for cold because I was still, this part isn't in the joke, but I still wasn't necessarily leaning into what I preferred. I was just like, what's easier for these people? I've already given them too much to deal with today in terms of my energy. But now I tend to go cold drink, cold milk, hot drink, hot milk, you know, let's do it.
I'm baffled sometimes when I go to restaurants and people are just so nonchalant about everything.
People know.
I think that's right.
They just go, yeah, cold, totally steamed.
I was always comfortable being a barista, but I never felt like I was trendy enough to like frequent those cafes.
That's
so
funny.
I actually one of the reasons why I moved to Iqaluit was because there is just none of that culture. And then we 2 years ago got a cafe, and all of a sudden I was like, no, like, I have to learn.
I like your little coffee shop in your town.
Blackheart Cafe.
Yeah.
But I mean, we should segue to something else, but we don't have to. I'm sorry. Did I segue?
No, of course we should. Of course we should. I just wanted to like exist in my mind at the Blackheart Cafe. That's all that was going on there.
I just had this moment of like something else that I'm really struggling with.
Yeah.
Is that I usually order Americanos. And me and my wife come in and we order Americanos. I get milk, she gets cream. And now they're at the point where I come in, they just automatically make it. And I don't want it anymore, but I don't know how to.
That's really cute. That feels like a way, like something I would get stuck in as well. You might have to just have one more Americano. Like you'll walk in, they'll make it for you. And then as you're accepting it, be like, thank you so much. I love this so much. I'm thinking maybe I'll go iced this summer. And then that's it.
Thank you, Deanne. I'm just going to write that. Thank you.
See how easy it is when it's not your own thing? Yeah.
Exactly. This is just a heads up. Next time, I'm going to try iced.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get an iced coffee.
An iced coffee? Really?
You're gonna do it.
Wow.
Are you sure? Are you sure? I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna get an iced coffee with milk, no Americano.
No Americano. All right. A whole new lady right now.
Is that your new normal?
I don't know. We'll see how I feel tomorrow. If I can order an iced coffee, you can do anything. Thank you.
Moment it's about like people pleasing or wanting people to like you or something, because that's kind of where I would take it. Like I wouldn't want to rock the boat and they're being so nice, but truthfully, like when you think through it, or when I'm thinking through it and it's not my personal situation, it's like, wow, it's really no big deal. They want to give you what you want.
Totally. For me personally, it's not just so much about people pleasing, and this is where we get to some autistic related content, is that
let's get in there.
We've been so used to being conditioned to do things that feel unnatural to us, and then getting in trouble when we kind of do speak up to ourselves. So I know that's it's just coffee. But for us, it's like, is this a situation where I'm right, or is this a situation where, I'm being annoying, or I'm going to, like, I seriously always question myself.
Like when you're able to notice that and then try to catch it and change it a little bit, I think it's really transformative.
I feel like that's what I've learned the most through my Instagram account, is that how hard I've been on myself. And when I have to like frame stuff for other people, I'm so like attentive and I want to get it right. I spend so much time like making sure I respond to everybody. And then I realize like, I haven't even drank water. Like, I haven't changed my clothes. So I think that's like helped me realize like, you know what, you can give some of that to this.
You just said the phrase hard on yourself, and that reminded me. And like, I have a joke about this, like, and I always forget that I'm hard on myself. And like recently, my therapist had to say it to me again, like, oh, you're really hard on yourself. I'm like, oh yeah, like just remembering that concept is so important. And I had a joke about the first time I heard it, I recognized it. Like my therapist was like, wow, you're really hard on yourself. And I was like, yeah, I guess I am. And then, but then for real, my immediate next thought, and then I have a joke about it where I was just like, I should have figured this out years ago. Come on. Like it's really a vicious cycle. And I think most people have some version of that, like just being really unnecessarily harsh with themselves. If there are people that don't, I want to hear from them. Like, what a dream life that would be.
On that note, we're halfway through, so this is a reminder to drink water, stretch, and then come back, because next we're going to be talking about gender and social etiquette.
Which brings me to my next joke that I am obsessed with.
I don't understand why anyone would pay to go to an escape room. I think for me, the whole concept just hits too close to home, you know? I have depression and I work from home. Every day is a goddamn puzzle for me to figure out how to escape from my house. I'm like, where are my keys, my pants, my motivation? Are any of them inside the internet? Let me check that for 7 hours. How do I get out of here? How do I get out?
Just the whole concept of someone putting themselves in a place that they had to escape from was just funny to me, I guess, because I really didn't get it. Since that joke, I have gone to escape rooms and actually enjoyed them. Just like big weird puzzles. Okay, I get it now. But at the time, the general concept I just thought was so weird.
I've just been really learning in the last little bit that I have anxiety. I really didn't understand that that's what I was suffering from. Like, I hate when I'm freaking out and people will say, oh, just relax. And it's like, how? If I knew that, I would not be in this moment of panic.
Yeah. Like a couple years ago, I'm not on them anymore, and I kind of have to remind myself this sometimes. But a few years ago, I went on acetalopram, which is the generic of Celexa, which is for anxiety and depression. And what was fascinating about it, Celexa, was I thought I was like, oh yeah, I'm depressed. Depression is the main issue. But then having gone on the drug, I was like, it's actually anxiety is the main issue. And then like my inability to deal with that, or even first of all, my inability to recognize it as anxiety and is what led to the depression, because it was like, I can't deal with all this stuff. I can't function. Why? What's wrong with me? And then that made me feel depressed and unmotivated and all these other things. It's easy to think that like everybody has the same issues and they're just handling it better. That's kind of what I was thinking all the time. Like, why can't you do this thing that everybody else can do? It's like, well, because your brain's playing a certain kind of trick on you that it's not necessarily playing on everybody. But going on that drug was amazing because it acts on anxiety like almost immediately within a few days. It takes like a few weeks to catch up with you for depression, but just in a few days, just having that, it's hard to explain. I haven't really thought about it or tried to articulate it, but there's a certain like weight of like worry and like a general feeling of doom lifted.
I just started getting treated for anxiety. It's exactly what you described. Like, I really resisted being put on any sort of medication or experiencing treatment because I was like, I'm autistic. We don't need a cure. Like, right. How dare you? I got this. And then realized, like, actually, maybe I don't.
Are you taking something? Like, what are you taking? I love med talk.
I am taking sertraline, which is Zoloft. Though I like Celexa. Okay. Sounds way hotter than Zoloft.
I know. I could tell you're into it. Yeah.
Are you still on any medication, or have you?
No, I did the thing you are absolutely not supposed to do. Everybody says don't do this, and I didn't even realize I was doing it until I was doing it. Everybody's like, don't just abruptly go off meds because you feel like it. And I was like, I'm on the other side of the world, isolated from all my support networks, far away from my doctor. I don't want to do this anymore. And I just went off. And what I thought the potential danger was, I don't know, maybe you'll get suicidal all of a sudden, or you'll get like depressed. But there were truly like physical withdrawal symptoms that I wasn't ready for. And I was experiencing them for like 3 weeks before I started kind of Googling around. And then I was like, I had not put it together. And then I was like, oh, like intestinal stuff was happening. I had like itchy skin. I couldn't sleep, all these things. And I did not put it together until later that it was because I abruptly pulled myself off these meds. So I would just like to reiterate what everybody already knows is don't do that.
You heard it here, folks. That's so good to know. So I guess when autistics, when we're unmasking, which means unlearning our sort of coached behaviors and figuring out who we are, you're pretty open about being non-binary. Yeah. And so I guess like, what's that journey been like for you?
I came out like in the 90s, pre-Ellen. I always like to remind everybody that because it was a different time. Like truthfully, when I was a young teenager putting this stuff together, I thought I invented the concept of being gay. I really did. So like, I'm like 12 years old in my bed, falling asleep at night, inventing this concept. And part of me is like, oh wow, I'm like really wrong and weird and bad. And then part of me is like, I'm a fucking genius. Like,
let me hear from the straight ladies in the audience. Straight ladies, where you at? Straight ladies. Straight. I don't know how to speak to straight women. But I have an important message for you guys. I am worried that you guys have been accepting too little for too long. I think maybe you've set the bars in your relationships too low. How would I know that? Fair question. The girl I'm dating now, until now, has exclusively dated men. It is so easy to impress her. Straight guys, it's not hard to impress straight women. It's really not. Just show minimal interest in the things your lady is passionate about. Every once in a while, just hit her with one of these. Oh, tell me more.
All of this to say, it's been difficult for me to let go of the word lesbian. Like I still call myself a lesbian, even though I'm like non-binary and I don't feel like a woman and all these things. Like all these words are just placeholders for concepts, and none of it is concrete or precise. You know, we're all just kind of stumbling, trying to communicate this stuff with the tools we have. But at the moment, I don't think, and it may always be this way. I don't think there's any like words for sexuality or gender that at least to me feel like perfectly precise. We've nailed it. In the past few years, like when I moved to Montreal in my late 20s, and that's where these kind of concepts were filtering to me, where I even understood that gender queer was a thing, or like all this different stuff was coming through, filtering to me where it resonated with me. And I'm just like, oh, I'm this other thing. I'm not a failed woman, which is how it was easy to feel. You know what I mean? And I mean, I kind of knew this, but it's helpful. It is helpful to have words, even when they're not precise, or have other people, standing out in this other part of the field going like, hey, you can do this, you could be out here with me. And so when I talk openly about feeling, agender and non-binary, I do that in part because it feels right to me and it helps me put myself in context, but also to present the concept to other people if they need it. If you've never heard about it before, you didn't know it was possible, let me tell you that it's possible. I guess I love talking about this. It's all very new. New to me and a little bit
about this too.
Yeah, new to me, new to society. And I'm all the time discovering what makes me feel more comfortable with myself.
As a child actor, I always jumped at the opportunity to be like the little boys in the chorus because they got to do the most fun things. Yeah, the girls got to like flounce because I was a musical theater kid, but when I was a boy, I got to be with the girls.
I really do feel like validated when I'm not seen as a woman, and I haven't been very pushy about pronouns or anything, like in my comedy bios, or if anybody asks, I'm always like, yeah, they, them is the most comfortable thing. But more and more, like being hit with a she or a her, it becomes like, it just sounds really weird to me.
I feel like, yeah, like being autistic has really, and being so openly about that is really helping me like break down my own feelings of gender, because I was so teased for being young and looking young. I started to like over feminize myself, and that just really became like my mask. And then even when I came out as gay, I kind of felt like I was a failed lesbian because I was so femme looking. And I even remember I cut off my hair, and I really wanted to make the Tumblr account lesbians who look like Justin Bieber. That was like which I did. So I just felt though like I had to like become, and that just felt so fake to me. Yeah. So I'm definitely like realizing like I'm way more non-binary than I've ever allowed myself to be.
As public as I am about it in comedy and stuff, it also feels a little bit private, and it's like, whatever. Like on one hand, it doesn't really matter how people see me, you know, I know how I feel and who I am. So in like passing interactions or something, it's like, okay, I get it. You know, I have delicate little features and a high voice. You can she, her me all day long. It kind of doesn't matter. But I think where it matters is in like more intimate relationships, or, you know, with people that you really want to know you. That's, I think, where it matters, or where it feels validating. You're helping me like come to these conclusions for the first time. I haven't really thought so much about all this stuff.
In a lot of also Indigenous and African languages, there are no pronouns. And when people learn English, and this is true in where I live, which is in an Inuit territory where they speak Inuktitut, there aren't any pronouns. When someone dies, the next born is named after them, regardless of their gender. And gender is such a colonial structure. And when I lived in Ghana, when people were speaking English, everyone would always say she when they meant he, and her when they meant him, to the point where when I heard she, I just thought he.
Like, we're just people. We're all doing the best we can. That makes a lot of sense to me. I love the idea that there are languages that like don't even have pronouns. I hadn't thought about that. That's so cool.
I feel like that's what should be taught. Like, you know, who you are is fluid, and I'm definitely on that journey as well. So
yeah,
I'm always now going to go back to what you said, or that barista in Australia said. It's not about what's normal, it's just about what you prefer.
Awesome. Oh no, do you hear this? That's a reminder for me to call my dad. Is this a spectrum thing? If I don't set reminders, I literally forget people exist, including my dad. Is that normal? Normal. I shouldn't use any of these words.
I was just gonna be like, that's very ableist. Deanne.
I know it's very ableist, but we do have an English language, and some words are placeholders for certain concepts. And what else are we supposed to do?
Just for this interview today, I had like 30 reminders, like every hour. Like
I just recently learned how to use my calendar on my phone, and it'll be like, how often do you want me to write, or when do you want me to remind you? And I'm like, okay, 2 hours before, 1 hour before, half an hour before, 15 minutes before.
I guess we can kind of like wrap up and play a game.
A game. Okay, cool.
Here we'll play my social etiquette game. I'm just going to ask you some questions, and you can choose one. First question is dinner parties, so where you're like sitting down and it's seated, or mingling parties.
Yeah, mingling.
Why?
So I can leave if I want to, escape to the bathroom, you know, be a little bit more in control of my environment and who I'm talking to. I didn't know that I even had this preference until right now. But when you're like dinner party, I was like, oh God, who am I seated next to? How long is this going for? Like that made me feel trapped.
I can't be myself. I have to switch into like, what is everyone else going to be doing? Like,
yeah, no, I'm totally like that too. Yeah. Making the odd, like witty comment here and there. That's my comfort zone, and it's what people expect. So it's easy to just kind of go like, I feel very uncomfortable, but zing, za, like just do a few of these lines and then get out of there.
In an uncomfortable conversation, do you make an excuse to leave, or do you just smile and nod?
Depends on what kind of uncomfortable situation, because I feel like some topics that other people might be uncomfortable with, I am comfortable with. Like, I like the big stuff. Let's get into it. Let's talk about taboos. If it's uncomfortable in a way that someone's kind of being an asshole, like if they're being racist or sexist or something, like I'm not afraid to be confrontational. So I would be confrontational and then probably walk away. It also makes me think that there are probably things that it seems to me that other people are comfortable with that I'm not. Like in many ways, almost every conversation is an uncomfortable conversation to me.
If your meal is made wrong, despite your very clear instructions,
yeah,
do you exchange it?
Well, I have a lot of little genuine dietary restrictions. So if I would feel bad about it and I would like second guess myself. I'd check with the other people at my table. Like, did I said gluten-free though, right? Did I say, if I genuinely feel like it was their mistake, I wouldn't want to, but I would have to say, sorry, can you bring me another one?
Hugs from strangers, hot or not?
This is interesting. I feel that I am very inconsistent with greetings and goodbyes of even friends or strangers. Sometimes I'm really in like a don't touch me zone, and sometimes I'm very much like bring it in, buddy. So I don't know, but let's just say right now during the pandemic, I mean, how good would a hug feel from anybody? Something about putting your heart right up next to somebody else's heart. That's the thing I think we need as humans.
American versus Canadian social etiquette.
The stereotype that Canadians are more polite and a little, more like quick to apologize. I think that's generally true. And I prefer the Canadian way of being. And when, I've lived in Canada for so long, when I travel, people assume I'm Canadian.
I'm Canadian.
Yeah.
But in Canada, we're more like polite and we're kind of more passive aggressive. So I feel like I'm being judged more. I don't know. I feel like Canada is good for like the human rights and the healthcare, but America, for me personally, I feel like nobody cares.
America's a little like just more loose, more individualistic. Yeah. And at the end of the day, no one really cares about anyone except themselves.
Holding the door open for someone, nice or stressful?
Well, like definitely nice if you're right there. What's not fun is if someone's holding the door for you and you're like far away from it, and then you feel like you have to you have to run and catch up to whatever they're trying to do.
Conversations on planes.
No, thank you.
Yay or nay? Okay.
Nope. I've definitely met some nice people on planes, but for the most part, it's too much of a gamble. It's too much of a roll of the dice. I don't know who you are and what we're going to talk about. You're helping me realize there's a lot of stuff that I do that I like don't necessarily enjoy, but I feel like I should enjoy, or that like everybody else seems to be enjoying this. So, haha.
Who will you be in 5 years?
Asking me who will I be in 5 years? That is fascinating. My goodness. I'm gonna give you the real answer. It was just cheesy and it's based on like what's happening right now. But I think that in 5 years I will be more accepting of myself, because I am always working towards this. If the last 5 years are any indication, or the 5 years before that, or the 5 years before that, I'll also be the exact same guy. Just like this, but older. Maybe slightly different.
Still with amazing shirts.
I put this on because you said you were changing your outfit, which is so funny. Like I said, if I had stayed in my shirt, we would have both been wearing t-shirts from my comedy, which would be insane.
It's very sensory friendly. It's a soft material.
Good. The graphic, like the writing isn't too much.
I think it's great. I love when people
stiff.
come over and they have to do that, like, they're looking at you and then they have to do the, okay. I like when what I say or wear elicits a clear reaction in someone else, because I know what they're doing. Because it's really hard for me sometimes to read facial expressions. Those are all of my questions, but if you have anything else you would like to add, or
I'm going to show you what I have on my fridge. Are you ready for this?
Oh, there's Harley.
There's Harley.
He made it onto the Zoom chat.
Thank you so much for today.
Bye.
Bye.
Ending meeting for all.
Fix me. My voice sounds worse than rusty nails. My breath, it smells from eating snails. Everybody trembles when they see me. I've got necrotising fasciitis, extra contagious boligitis. Even lice and bedbugs won't come near me. Living independently, I just do what comes naturally. That's the joy of living on my own. And if I just got up and left, then I would leave an empty nest. A broken queen needs a broken throne. I live in a broken home, there's no one else but me alone. When I take a tumble, no one hears it. Living in a broken home, I listen to the dial tone and hang out with the monsters and the spirits. I live in a broken home, there's no one else but me alone. When I take a tumble, no one hears it. Living in a broken home, I listen to the dial tone, so please hang up and try your call again.
We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.